Hello everyone, and welcome to my Soap Twist 24 channel. I hope everyone is having a wonderful day. Before we begin, please hit the subscribe button and give this video a thumbs up. The sun dipped low over the Los Angeles skyline, casting a warm golden glow over the sprawling Forrester Creations estate. The air was thick with tension, a palpable undercurrent that seemed to permeate every inch of the opulent mansion. For weeks, whispers and suspicions had circulated through the halls, with each glance between family members bearing unspoken accusations. A single question had haunted Luna Nozawa since she discovered she was pregnant. Who was her child's father? Luna sat in her dimly lit bedroom, her hands trembling as she held the crumpled piece of paper containing the DNA results. The words on the page were a blur through her tear-filled eyes, but their meaning was imprinted on her heart. Bill Spencer, the man she had believed, hoped to be the father, was not. The test was conclusive and left no room for doubt. Her world, which was already fragile, was about to collapse. The journey to this point had been a maze of emotions. Luna, a young designer at Forrester Creations, was always the quiet one, the dreamer who poured her heart into her sketches and designs. She had come to Los Angeles looking for a new beginning, a way to escape the shadows of her past. Her mother, Poppy, had been an erratic presence in her life, a whirlwind of chaos and secrets. Luna had vowed to be different, to create a life of stability and purpose. However, as is often the case, love had complicated everything. It started with Bill Spencer, a charismatic, larger-than-life media mogul whose allure was both dangerous and irresistible. Their connection was unexpected, sparked by late-night meetings at Forrester Creations. Bill recognized something in Luna, a quiet strength and vulnerability that mirrored his own hidden wounds. Their affair was brief but intense, a stolen moment in time that Luna treasured despite knowing it would never last. Bill was a powerful man whose heart was tied to his ambitions and his complicated relationship with the Forrester family. But there was another. Zend Forrester Dominguez, a talented designer with a kind heart, had been Luna's confidant, friend, and, for a brief moment, something more. Their night together had been a mistake, the result of loneliness and too much wine, but it had left Luna with lingering regret. When she discovered her pregnancy, the question of paternity became a burden she couldn't bear. She had prayed, that Bill was the father, not because of his wealth or status, but because she had loved him, even if it had gone unrequited. The DNA test had been her last hope, a way to tie her future to something certain. She'd approached Bill, her heart in her throat, and asked him to take the test. He had agreed, his face unreadable, but there was a flicker in his eyes. Hope, perhaps, or fear. The results were supposed to provide clarity, but instead they shattered everything. Luna's hands shook as she placed the paper on her desk. The silence in her room was deafening, interrupted only by the soft ticking of the clock on the wall. She felt as if she was standing on the edge of a cliff, the ground crumbling beneath her. If Bill was not the father, it had to be Zend. But Zend had moved on, and his heart was now entwined with another. Telling him the truth would change his life, and Luna couldn't bear the thought of causing him pain. She stood and paced the room, her thoughts racing. The Forrester family had already gone through so much. Scandals, betrayals, and heartbreak were woven into their legacy. Luna had never wanted to be the source of more chaos, but now she was at the center of a storm that threatened to split them all apart. She could already envision the headlines, the whispers in the boardroom, and the judgmental looks at family gatherings. Poppy, her mother, would be furious, her carefully cultivated image tainted by her daughter's scandal. A knock on the door startled her. She wiped her eyes and took a deep breath, attempting to calm herself. "Come in," she said, her voice unsteady. The door opened, and Steffy Forrester entered. Steffy, with her sharp eyes and commanding presence, was the Forrester family's unofficial matriarch, bearing the weight of their legacy with unwavering determination. But tonight, there was a softness to her expression, a hint of concern that Luna hadn't anticipated. Steffy said, "Luna," and closed the door behind her. "I heard about the test results." Are you okay? Luna's throat tightened. She wanted to lie and say she was fine, but the weight of the truth was too much. No, she said softly, her voice breaking. I'm not okay. Steffi crossed the room and sat beside her, her presence both reassuring and intimidating. I understand this is difficult, she said gently. But you don't have to go through this alone. Whatever happens, we'll work it out. Luna shook her head, tears streaming down her cheeks. You do not understand, Steffi. This changes everything. The baby is not Bill's. It's Zend's. The words hung in the air, heavy and definitive. Steffi's expression shifted between shock and understanding. She reached out and placed her hand on Luna's arm. Does Zend know? Not yet, Luna replied, her voice barely audible. I'm not sure how to tell him. He's happy now, Steffi. He has moved on. Steffi softened her eyes but maintained a firm tone as she spoke. Luna, you cannot keep this from him. He deserves to know. And you deserve to be supported, regardless of what happens. Luna averted her gaze, returning to the DNA results. She remembered Zend's smile, how his eyes lit up when he talked about his designs and dreams. She recalled the life she had envisioned for her child, one filled with love and stability. But now, that vision felt like a distant memory, slipping through her fingers. The days that followed were a blur of pain and uncertainty. Luna avoided Zend, unable to face him, but the truth gnawed at her, a constant reminder of the decision she must make. She spent sleepless nights replaying her conversations with Bill, including the way he looked at her when she told him she was pregnant. She had a fleeting but genuine thought that he might want to be a father again. But now, that hope had vanished, replaced by a cold, harsh reality. As the sun set over the city, Luna found herself at the Forrester estate, standing in the garden where she and Zend had once shared a quiet moment. The air was cool, and the scent of jasmine hung heavy around her. She heard footsteps and turned to see Zend approaching, with a cautious expression. Luna, he said, his voice soft. You have been avoiding me. What's happening? Her heart raced in her chest. She wanted to run and hide from the truth, but she knew she couldn't. Zend, she said, her voice trembling. There's something I need to tell you. He stepped closer, frowning. What is it? You're frightening me. She took a deep breath and clasped her hands tightly in front of herself. I'm pregnant, she exclaimed, the words spilling out before she could control them. Zend was stunned to learn that he was the father. For a moment, neither of them spoke, the silence separating them like a chasm. Then, slowly, he reached out, his hand hovering near hers before withdrawing. Luna, he exclaimed, his voice hoarse. Are you sure? She nodded as tears streamed down her cheeks. The DNA test ruled out Bill. It's you, Zend. I'm so sorry. He ran his hand through his hair, his face a mix of disbelief and anguish. Why didn't you tell me earlier? I didn't know how, she confessed. I felt scared. I didn't want to ruin your life, Zend said, his eyes softening but still filled with pain. Do you think this will ruin my life? He asked, his voice breaking. I care about you, Luna. I always have. But this is a lot. I know, she whispered. I do not expect anything from you. I just had to tell you the truth. He looked away, his jaw tightening. I need time, he admitted finally. I need to process this. Luna nodded, her heart pounding as she watched him walk away. She stood alone in the garden, the weight of her decisions bearing down on her. The future was uncertain, tangled with love, loss, and responsibility. She placed her hand on her stomach, sensing a faint flutter of life within her. Whatever happened, she would face it, for her child, for herself, and for the prospect of a better future. As the days and weeks passed, word of Luna's pregnancy spread like wildfire throughout the Forrester family. Whispers escalated into arguments, and old wounds were reopened. Despite the fact that he was no longer biologically linked to Luna, Bill felt a strange sense of loss. He wanted to be a father again, to show that he could be better than he had been in the past. Now that opportunity had passed, and he was left to face his own loneliness. Zend, meanwhile, struggled to reconcile his feelings for Luna with the life he'd started with someone else. He cared for Luna, but fatherhood was a responsibility he hadn't expected. He sought advice from his uncle, Ridge Forrester, who had experienced his fair share of family drama. Ridge's words were simple yet profound. Family is not about perfection. It's about showing up, even when it's difficult. Luna, caught in the midst of the storm, found solace in her work. She poured her heart into her designs, with each sketch reflecting her pain and hope. She knew the journey ahead would be difficult, but she was determined to be the mother her child deserved. She remembered her own mother, Poppy, whose mistakes had shaped Luna's life in ways she was only beginning to comprehend. She vowed to break the cycle and give her child a life full of love and honesty. Despite their dysfunction, the Forrester family came together to support Luna in their own way. Steffy became her staunchest supporter, ensuring she had a place at Forrester Creations no matter what. Hope Logan, the eternal optimist, offered words of encouragement, reminding Luna that she was stronger than she realized. Even the family patriarch, Eric Forrester, took Luna under his wing, sharing stories about his own mistakes and successes as a father. But the chaos wasn't over. The disclosure of the DNA results triggered a chain reaction, exposing secrets and straining relationships. Poppy's return to Los Angeles only added fuel to the fire, serving as a reminder of the past that Luna had worked so hard to forget. As the family dealt with the fallout, Luna stood in the middle, a young woman torn between love, duty, and the search for her own identity. Luna would sit by her window, gazing out at the city lights, during quiet moments when the world seemed to pause. She thought about the child growing inside her, a glimmer of hope in an uncertain world. She had no idea what the future held, but she was certain of one thing. She would face it with courage, both for herself and for the life she carried. The road ahead was long and winding, but Luna Nozawa was prepared to take it one step at a time. Bill stood by the fireplace, holding a folded piece of paper. He tapped it against his palm slowly and deliberately, allowing the tension to build around everyone's throats. "I didn't call you all here for games," he said, his voice deep and steady. "It's about the truth. A truth that has been concealed, distorted, and denied. And today, it's all over." His gaze narrowed on Poppy, who paled instantly, her lips parting but no words escaping. "I have the DNA results," Bill added. "And they prove once and for all who fathered Luna." The words sounded like thunder. Luna's face had lost its color, and her heart was racing so fast that she could hear it pounding in her ears. RJ, who was sitting close to her, reached out instinctively, despite the fact that his hand was shaking. Ridge leaned forward in his chair, his jaw tightening. "Bill," Ridge cautioned, "maybe this isn't the way to handle something so sensitive." Bill cut him off with a sharp glare. "Don't lecture me on sensitivity, Ridge. This is about me, my family, and the lies that have been spread for decades. Everyone deserves to know the truth." He slowly unfolded the paper, allowing the silence to grow until it became unbearable. "The results prove beyond any doubt," Bill announced, his voice booming in the high-ceilinged room, "that I am not Luna's father." There were gasps. Luna slapped her hand over her mouth as her body trembled. Poppy's eyes welled up quickly, and she half stood, violently shaking her head. No, that's not possible," she said hoarsely. Bill's eyes cut through her like steel. "Not possible? Or is it not convenient? You've got me hooked with your insinuations and suggestive half-truths. But science does not lie. I'm not her father. So, Poppy, who is?" The entire room fell silent in surprise. Everyone turned to Poppy, who appeared to be about to collapse. She clutched the back of a chair for support, her mind racing with the weight of years' worth of secrets. Luna's voice interrupted the silence. "Mom, is this true? You told me that Bill was my father. You told me you were certain." Her voice cracked, full of pain and betrayal. Poppy reached for her, but Luna drew back, tears streaming down her face. "How could you do this to me? To him? To everyone?" Steffi leaned forward, her gaze narrowing on Poppy. So, if Bill isn't the father, who is? Because you've obviously been hiding something. You made Luna believe she belonged to him when you knew it wasn't true. Ridge warned her, but the damage had already been done. The tension had devolved into open hostility. Liam murmured under his breath. Typical. Another Spencer bombshell that destroys half of the families in this town. Bill crumpled the paper in his fist, his face contorted with rage and pain. You played me, he admitted to Poppy, his voice dangerously low. You made me believe I had a daughter and that I had something genuine with her. And all along, you knew it wasn't true. Who is he, Poppy? Who is the man you have been protecting all these years? Poppy's throat contracted. She opened her mouth, but no words emerged. Her gaze darted toward the door, as if escape would save her. However, there was no way out. Not this time. RJ wrapped his arm around Luna, attempting to protect her from the approaching storm, but Luna's sobs made his eyes sting. I don't understand, she said through tears. My entire life I've wondered about my father. And now, just when I thought I had answers, they're ripped away again. She looked at her mother, her voice trembling. Why, Mom? Why didn't you tell me the truth? The silence became thicker than before, and Poppy finally spoke, her voice breaking. Because the truth would have destroyed everything, she murmured. I believed I was protecting you. I thought I was protecting us. Bill scoffed bitterly. Protecting? Please do not insult us. You were protecting yourself. So, who is this, Poppy? Who fathered Luna? Tell us the name right now. Ridge stood up, his face tight with suspicion. Wait a minute, he said slowly, moving his gaze between Poppy and Luna. You're not saying it couldn't be. His voice trailed off, but the implication lingered. Brooke widened her eyes and reached for his arm. Ridge, don't. But Steffy, who was always quick to take the initiative, shot forward with narrowed eyes. Is that you, Dad? Is this why she is hiding? Because Luna could be your daughter. The room erupted in gasps and shouts, with everyone talking over one another. Luna clutched RJ's arm in horror, while Ridge appeared stunned, his face blanching at the accusation. That is insane. Ridge snapped. I have nothing to do with Poppy. Not then, not ever. However, the seed of doubt had been planted, and whispers swirled. Bill's eyes darkened even further. If you're lying, Forrester, I'll find out, he hissed. Brooke clutched Ridge's arm tightly, attempting to anchor him, but she too appeared rattled. Poppy raised her hands, tears streaking her cheeks. Stop. Please just stop. Ridge isn't Luna's father. Neither of you are. I never expected it to turn out this way. Bill's jaw clenched. Then say it. Who? Poppy looked at her daughter, her face filled with anguish. I used to love your father a long time ago. However, he could not be a part of our lives. He chose a different path, and I decided to raise you on my own. I never wanted you to feel rejected. That is why I told you that Bill was your father. Because I thought it would give you a family. Her words did not calm the situation. Steffi shook her head and spoke sharply. You lied to everyone and drew us into your drama. Luna deserved better. She deserves the truth, Luna sobbed, pulling away from RJ. I'm not sure who I am anymore. RJ attempted to hold her, but she stood up abruptly, trembling. I can't be here, she said quietly before leaving the room. RJ rushed after her, calling out her name. The silence that followed was suffocating. Bill stared at Poppy with venom. You destroyed any chance we had, he said, his voice low and deadly. You destroyed her. She may never forgive you. I certainly won't. He turned and stormed out, his footsteps echoing like thunder. Steffi shook her head in disgust, murmuring, Unbelievable. Just when I thought this family couldn't get any more complicated. She and Ridge exchanged a wary look before she left, her heels clicking sharply. Brooke lingered, her gaze softening on Poppy. Secrets always come out, she said quietly but not without sympathy. But this one may have cost you everything. She followed Ridge out, leaving Poppy alone in the room, broken. Her tears flowed silently, and her chest rose and fell with ragged breaths. She whispered into the silence, I only wanted to protect her. Outside, Luna collapsed onto the garden bench, sobbing uncontrollably. RJ knelt beside her and pulled her into his arms. "You're not alone," he said with a fierce whisper. "You've still got me. No matter what happens, I'm not leaving." Luna shook her head, tears soaking his shirt. "You do not understand, RJ. My entire identity was a lie. How do I recover from this? How will I ever trust again?" RJ tightened his grip, his heart breaking for her. "We'll face this together. I promise." Poppy sat back down, staring at the crumpled DNA results on the table. She knew it was only the beginning. The truth about Luna's father remained hidden, but now the walls were closing in. Someone would eventually discover the name she had fought so hard to keep hidden. And when that happened, chaos would erupt all over again, tearing apart the fragile lives she had attempted to protect.